Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the 10 worst WWE games.
He's going to the top rope! Rikishi attacking with all guns blazing. Defense!
For this list, we'll be looking at console games that used the old WWF or newer WWE license, and Batista bombed it into a glitchy video game mess. Agree or disagree? Believe or seen enough? Sound off in the comments below. Number 10. WWF/WWE Raw. The first WWE game to be released on the Xbox, but the last for its 13 years on tenure on PC. WWF Raw had to undergo a huge change shortly after shipping, when the World Wrestling Federation had to get the F out and became the WWE. Sadly, looking great was all it had going for it. The movesets for each wrestler were boring and sloppily animated, grapples rarely connected, and each match took place inside the, by then outdated, Raw is War arena. Plus, the camera angles were constantly at a weird 60-degree angle. Raw had more potential than Cesaro, but was executed like The Fiend's push. Number 9. WWF In Your House. For some PlayStation titles like Metal Gear Solid and Crash Bandicoot, taking a retroactive look will showcase a golden age of video game innovation. For others like WWF In Your House, not so much. You can be forgiven for believing Warzone was the first franchise game of the PS1 era, however that was actually Acclaim's third attempt after WrestleMania the arcade game and In Your House.
A gorilla press slam! Can you believe that?
So far removed from the source material that it isn't even a wrestling game, In Your House, like its predecessor, is a photorealistic Mortal Kombat-inspired fighting sim complete with fatality-esque finishers and meta arenas. There are little run-ins of promise, like a decent roster and enhanced commentary, but it never managed to put money in the bank.
He's going to the top rope!
Number 8. WWE Crush Hour.
Spectacular maneuver there by Kurt Angle! Whoa, 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 whoa!
Why? That's literally the only question that anyone had when this was announced. A cross between Twisted Metal and Mad Max, and with no inspiration from actual wrestling, Crush Hour was even more removed from the squared circle.
Rikishi attacking with all guns blazing!
In a world where it's normal for The Rock to jump into his luxury sports car despite wearing nothing but his wrestling trunks, players fight other WWE superstars in battle-ready vehicles in order to wrestle control of all TV networks from Vince McMahon. Still with us? In fairness, it's actually quite fun, a little bit, but it's got barely anything to do with the namesake, which is why it's so bad. Believe me, I've clocked in way more hours of playing this game than I would like to admit.
Billy Gunn has the Twisty Rockets.
Believe me, I will back that ass up.
Number 7. WWF Betrayal. The last in our trifecta of wrestling games that took out the wrestling. On this occasion, Stephanie McMahon has been kidnapped, and it's up to your choice from a rather minute number of 4 superstars to rescue her, in return for the WWF title. How do you do that, you might ask? Challenge her kidnappers to a cage match? Hell in a Cell? Nah, you just beat them up as if it's Streets of Rage. The game is obscenely difficult thanks to a poor depth of field. And yes, this game is a side-scroller, just like Streets of Rage, as opposed to a wrestling game a la everything else in the franchise. Number 6. WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Poor Battlegrounds. It had as much chance to be successful as Mick Foley did at finishing a match on top of a steel cage. There's nothing particularly wrong with Battlegrounds, although there isn't a lot that's right with it either. This was essentially developer 2K's unique way of slowly sliding a project across a metaphorical desk and telling us that the dog ate the rest of their homework.
Looking to make them tap. He's gonna submit them. Oh, no, he's not.
The art style is bizarre, and what's worse is that all of the wrestlers share moves with several other wrestlers, which makes no sense! The most egregious part of Battlegrounds is that it was announced off the heels of 2K's almost apologetic promise to overhaul their WWE Games division, only to lock most of this one behind an obnoxious amount of microtransactions. Really, what is happening with this game?
Too much damage! I don't see this match continuing! Winner, chicken dinner!
Number 5, WWE Aftershock. To be fair to Aftershock, few people remember the platform that the game ran on, let alone this attempt at mobile sports entertainment. The N-Gage was a shell-shaped handheld console mobile phone hybrid that intended to rival Nintendo's Game Boy at the time. The only problem was that it was riddled with problems. As a result, video games that were designed for the N-Gage were likely to have issues by default. Aftershock was no exception, as the platform wasn't strong enough for developers Exient Entertainment to add a Create a Wrestler mode, story mode, or more than 11 wrestlers. That said, there wasn't much variation in the movesets, and the animations were way too sticky for it. For 2005, handheld WWE games were just not cutting it. Number 4. WWE 2K15.
Weighing 286 pounds, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar.
I'm excited for this one.
Oh, 2K15, how we had so much hope for you. The plans for this actual wrestling game promised a complete overhaul of features, new and improved fighting dynamics, and graphics that would fool you into thinking that you were going to be doused in sweat at any moment. Plus, this was going to be the first WWE game on the then new generation of consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
And he touches that one. Look at Brock Lesnar pouring on the aggression. And Brock Lesnar nails it.
However, those hopes came crashing down faster than Shane McMahon on a SummerSlam set. What we got was just pure blandness. Having delayed launch by a month, the new-gen games were slower and boring despite looking great. The whole feature felt like one step forward and several German suplexes back. Number 3. WWE Survivor Series. The Survivor Series was a Game Boy Advance title released as a follow-up to 2002's WWE Road to WrestleMania X8, itself a prequel to WrestleMania X8. Released on the GameCube months prior, making this a sequel to a prequel of a game that was itself mediocre. Like its counterparts, this game suffered from a lackluster roster and lacked so many staple features. There's no Create a Wrestler mode, or even most of the more exotic match types. The graphics were subpar for a 2004 game as well. It's almost like developers Natsume didn't learn anything in the 2 years since its previous GBA attempt. Number 2. WWE 2K18 Switch version.
When his strikes land, you can feel it in the first few rows. Here comes Triple H. Check out Dash Wilder's offense.
With cross-platform games that are ported for the Nintendo Switch, you know that there are going to be one, maybe two compromises. The quality of the graphics and the frame rate are likely to drop slightly. Generally though, most Switch ports can work well. WWE 2K18 isn't even on the radar of being decent.
This has got trouble written all over it, guys.
Yeah, this might very well lead to an elimination.
Who's gonna enter next?
There were two main issues for this. A huge drop in frame rate meant the wrestlers practically ran backwards through the match. Royal Rumbles, in particular, saw the worst instances of slowdown, since the higher number of superstars on screen practically froze the game. Secondly, there was a huge deficit in features that had appeared on the PS4 and Xbox versions. Slow and broken, WWE 2K18 is the biggest kind of step down, but not as much as our number one pick.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. WWE 2K20.
This one's not over yet. We've seen plenty of people come back from being in a lot worse shape.
If there was ever a WWE game that deserved a chokeslam, by The Undertaker specifically, it was this. There are a plethora of YouTube compilations of glitches that speak for themselves. Our particular favorite is this, where players are forced to wrestle a ghost. Visually worse and mechanically poorer than previous entries, development did not go smoothly, with series veterans Ukes leaving midway through. As a result of the negative reviews, publisher 2K canceled WWE 2K21 and piled their efforts into building a new game from the ground up in 2K22. Somebody really should have called for the bell on this failing series long before now.
Is it enough to put Becky away? Does Becky Lynch even know where she is? Alexa Bliss did it.
In the mood for more awesome gaming content? Be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.